Rockstar, or more precisely, Rockstar's owner, Take-Two, is a gigantic company embodying pretty much all the worst corporate traits we can imagine. It's not without reason that people say they're slick, crafty, often unethical, manipulative, sly, soulless, and thirsty for cash, just as much as your average guy is for vodka at the Christmas Eve table. It's not without reason that people say they kill Rockstar projects, or at the very least heavily limit them so that something can be released relatively cheaply and still sell quite nicely. Small cost, big profit. The PC port of the first Red Dead, the trilogy, some random bullcrap for online, and other junk. You know it. My old song, I won't repeat it. Of course, what has to be done is done with due care. Sure, at the sight of GTA 6, we'll be drooling just as guys do at the sight of Lucia and ladies at the sight of Jason. That game will be amazing. That's obvious. Just as obvious as the fact that another Red Dead will be an outstanding Western masterpiece. It would take a miracle for it to be otherwise. Nevertheless, on the other hand, Take-Two is a kind of blessing for Rockstar. It helps finance large projects, provides publishing and marketing support, offers financial security, and enables scaling success. From Rockstar's point of view, such arrangements with Take-Two are still a good option. And objectively speaking, there's really no reason to be surprised by it. What's worse than all of this, however, is that the policy run by Take-Two doesn't just painfully slap us in the face when we expect a well-made remaster, or when for years we don't receive a game we're waiting for. Because after all, the GTA modding community is a work of art, and many times it would calmly save us from trouble. And in fact, they did save us when the trilogy remaster looked like junk, and they also saved us for many years while we were waiting for that remaster in the first place. Before the remaster, mods were being released that fixed the original games. Games that, without them, were basically unplayable. Mouse not working? Silent patch. Wanted to play in full HD? Bam, widescreen fix, and so on and so on. They improved all those old wonderful GTA titles and added so-called full conversion mods on top of that. From under the modders' wing came a huge number of fantastic projects. The only payment the modders got for this was that we played those mods and appreciated them. Financial upsides? Almost none. Sometimes someone probably threw a donation at a mod author and that was it. Any reward in the form of praise from Rockstar or Take-Two or an offered job position? Obviously not. And to top it all off, ladies and gentlemen, these poor people creating those amazing mods very often either got lawsuits or had to take their work and throw it the hell away into trash, because otherwise they'd get sued. To see the scale of all this, today we'll go through a whole lot of modifications that we basically received from modders as a gift, completely for free, and which in the end, at least officially, had to land in the bin. Even if financial penalties were avoided, I'll just mention that in the United States, the costs of court proceedings are borne by the losing party. So the modders will probably end up more or less like my buddy Tom after his last date with a Tinder girl from LA. And believe me, nobody would want to end up financially the way he did. One of the first such attacks from Rockstar against the modding scene happened in 2015, 2 years after the release of GTA 5. A certain group of modders developed back then a now very well-known program called FiveM. You could say it's a platform for creating servers, where you could play GTA multiplayer on your own rules, not the ones imposed by GTA Online. And then, in that very 2015, the modders responsible for the program, which as we know today attracts tons of players to the game and earns Rockstar a boatload of money, received a ban on their social club accounts from Rockstar. And here, it's very important to say that this did not mean losing access only to GTA Online. Deactivating a social club account meant no ability to play any Rockstar titles because the Steam account was linked to Social Club. As far as I understand, though I'm not 100% sure here, older games were excluded since they didn't require logging into Social Club. You know, Vice City, Max Payne 1, and stuff like that. Rockstar commented on this decision and justified it by saying that FiveM is an alternative multiplayer platform that contains tools which may facilitate piracy. And that would probably be a fine justification, except for the paradox that FiveM had a built-in social club login system. It was implemented precisely to check whether the user actually owned a purchased copy of the game. So FiveM literally prevented piracy in that way. If you wanted to play on FiveM, you had to own the original version of GTA 5. End of story. So was it about greed and fear that people would like the FiveM online gameplay more than blowing money on shark cards in GTA Online? I don't know, but I can guess. Now, FiveM was still nothing. In the case of FiveM, the mod itself wasn't banned, only the creators were punished. With Open4, the operation looked different. Let's start with what Open4 actually is. Open4 is software that decrypts many game files and greatly helps in creating and installing mods for GTA 4 and GTA 5. Generally speaking, almost everyone who mods the game beyond just installing a trainer will sooner or later need this program. In 2017, the creators of Open4 received a request from Take-Two to cease work and distribution of their tool. At first, their creators disagreed with this decision. They were convinced that their tool fell under fair use, so they politely asked what exactly they had done wrong and in what way they were violating agreements. Soon, they received a response in the form of a so-called cease and desist letter. This is a letter sent when one party claims that the other has violated its copyright. It's basically a warning that if the other party does not stop violating copyright within a specific time, legal action will be initiated. In that letter, it was precisely listed which rights and permissions were violated by Open4. The authors were shocked, but in reality, they had no choice. They took their software down from the website. Because let's assume that even if they were right and would win, Take-Two's lawyers could drag such a case on for so long that the mod authors would already be living in a hut made of dirt and running around in the frost wearing only their underwear. The one good thing about this situation was that the community learned about everything, and Take-Two's PR took a serious hit. Rockstar decided to comment on the matter, claiming that Open4 made things much easier for cheaters, not only in using hacks, but also in creating them for online. As a result, they blocked Open4 not to strike at its creators, but supposedly to protect their product. The author responded by pointing out that Open4 was, first of all, never created with online in mind. The sole focus was single player. Second, Open4 does not allow players with a modified game to enter multiplayer mode at all. He admitted that yes, their work may have made it easier for some people to create their own hacking tools for online, but that's no longer directly their fault. I buy that. It's not the grape seller's fault that someone takes the grapes and makes wine out of them. On top of that, a petition to restore Open4 was organized by players, and it was signed by as many as 80,000 users. Things weren't pretty on Steam either, because an angry crowd started massively posting negative reviews of GTA 5. Once again, it turned out that a corporation is a corporation, but it still has weak points. That was enough for Rockstar to soon hold talks with its publisher, Take-Two, which in the final reckoning agreed to restore the possibility of distributing Open4. Rockstar then said that they value the modding community, but that they have to introduce a few rules. The first one was simple: absolutely zero messing with GTA Online. Nobody had an issue with that. The second rule was a bit harder to swallow and caused a big problem. It prohibited placing anyone's intellectual property, including Rockstar's, inside Rockstar's intellectual property. This applied most of all to mods, like the map of Los Santos in GTA Vice City, or say a character from GTA 4 in GTA 5, and so on. In fact, even the same creators responsible for Open4 had to abandon another project they were working on, which was porting Liberty City from GTA 4 to the GTA 5 engine. Oh, and Rockstar also stated back then that they mostly care only about games from the HD universe, and that older games can generally be modded, however, and that they don't really care. Yeah, but as you've probably already guessed, we'll come back to that later. For the moment, it was still relatively okay because Open4 was restored. You could shake hands with Rockstar and Take-Two and call it a truce. In 2019, according to what the community says, because today this Rockstar statement is no longer available anywhere, without any announcement, without any statement or notice, the corporation slightly changed its rules from 2017. They added one small but very significant note, and that note was, unfortunately, a total failure. It prohibited, listen to this, adding new characters, maps, and so on to Rockstar's intellectual property. So you get it. Before, you weren't allowed to import already existing content into the games. And now, on top of that, you also weren't allowed to create new things with your own hands, which meant that, de facto, it was almost the same as Rockstar saying, okay, that's it, sorry, modding is over. It was fun, but from today onward, we basically no longer tolerate practically any modifications. Was it because the era of remasters and remakes was starting? And fears started circling around their asses that a few modders in a garage can make a better remaster than a multi-billion freaking dollar corporation? I don't know, but I can guess. And so the real bombs were dropped in 2021. The statement that Take-Two Interactive and Rockstar Games don't give a damn about old games turned into outdated mythology. Take-Two suddenly began mass removing mods from the internet, one after another. What's more, the vast majority of them concerned games from the 3D universe. Among the removed mods was the legendary GTA Underground, which in an incredibly elaborate way connected all maps from the 3D universe into one world. Liberty City, Vice City, Carcer City, Bulworth, and so on and so on. While also porting radio stations, weather, and atmosphere from each game, adding custom safe houses, porting vehicles, and even expanding those vehicles with the ability to modify them in tuning garages. Gold, beautiful work. A mod that probably every GTA player has heard of at some point, but whatever. Who in the big world of business would care about some modder? The mod was supposed to go into the trash, and that was that. Another similar modification taken down was GTA Liberty City, which ported the world of GTA 3 to the GTA Vice City engine. The same treatment was given to two mods that respectively imported Portland from GTA 3 and Vice City from GTA Vice City into the GTA 5 engine. Also burned to the ground were conversions of games never released on PC, such as GTA LCS and GTA VCS ported to PC. Since these mods were based on other GTA games released on PC, they very extremely violated the rule about importing Rockstar intellectual property into another Rockstar intellectual property. A similar fate met GTA State of Liberty, which, like the others, added all three maps from the trilogy to GTA Vice City. And on top of that, Vice Cry also went up in flames, a mod that implemented high-resolution textures into the 2002 game. And among the more popular mods, there was also GTA 5 San Andreas. On top of that, Take-Two changed strategy. Earlier, there was some communication with modders, treating them with respect, plus public justifications and all that. And now, click. DMCA claim filed at the site hosting the mod, and job done. A DMCA claim is a request submitted by someone demanding the deactivation of given content on a website, which according to the claimant violates their copyright. Of course, you can appeal it, and today we'll still talk about a small group of, in quotation marks, brave ones who dared to do so. But in this situation, there were no brave people. And it's no surprise. It's like walking down a dark alley and seeing 20 brutes, each 2 meters tall, weighing 150 kilos, with a black belt on every belly. Even if that alley is a nice shortcut to your home, you'd probably prefer to go the long way around this time, right? If not, then your survival instincts is on the level of a vegetarian burrito, and there's no saving you. Back to the point, all the mods went up in smoke. Take-Two didn't respond to any attempts at contact, and those attempts did happen. So where did this sudden change in approach toward old games come from? I'll quote my damn self. Was it because the era of remasters and remakes was starting, and fear started circling around their asses that a few modders in a garage could make a better remaster than a multi-billion freaking dollar corporation? I don't know, but I can guess. Exactly that. We already know this story perfectly well. Modding purges were carried out, and then on the horizon appeared the beautiful, wonderful, majestic, epic, charming, dignified, splendor-filled definitive edition of the Grand Theft Auto trilogy. Ah, what a ball it was. Samba de Janeiro. Holy hell, plenty to remember. So yeah, the motive behind this whole action is painfully simple to decode. Take-Two got rid of any competition before releasing their work, which they knew would be 100 times worse than the work of modders. And even if it were on the same level, it would still be shameful because the difference between the resources of a company currently valued at over $40 billion and the resources of modders living in a Russian apartment block is a gap so massive that the Grand Canyon looks like a tiny little asshole. On top of all that, this whole situation discouraged Silent, one of the key representatives of the modding scene. He simply decided to stop creating mods for Rockstar Games, emphasizing that he prefers to mod other games, pointing out the contrast between Rockstar and other developers, and even mentioning that he once received a job offer from a studio because of his efforts in the modding scene. To emphasize how big of a loss Silent was, it's enough to say that Silent Patch is among other things his work, and it's probably the most useful mod for GTA. Actually, what am I even saying? Silent Patch is an absolutely required component to play GTA. If you install that vanilla version of the Rockstar Games launcher, you won't do anything without it. You won't even be able to shoot a pistol because your mouse won't work. Unless, of course, you have a single-core Intel Pentium 4, a GeForce FX 5900 XT 512MB of RAM, all running on Windows XP, and you own the original disc versions of GTA. Then sure, you'll be fine without Silent Patch. But that's a pretty niche setup these days. I'm guessing you have something stronger, and it's easier to just grab Silent Patch, download it, and copy-paste it. So Take-Two, with these actions, got rid of a guy who was literally charitably making their PC ports of old games even remotely functional, all in the name of releasing new PC ports of those games, which somehow were even more freaking broken than the previous ones. A circus, ladies and gentlemen. It's like someone gave a child a board full of buttons, where each button is a decision. Let the kid click around and let's see what comes out of it. If anyone up to this point believed that Take-Two was just messing around, then now it'll turn out that this is absolutely not the case. But in order, we're talking here about two more mods by the same team of creators, the so-called Re3 and ReVC. The project lasted, attention, 10 years. The result was that the creators managed to decompile the entire game code because, you see, GTA's code is written by programmers in C++, but a computer doesn't understand such code directly. That's why, before a game is released, it's converted into so-called machine code, which is completely unreadable to humans, and additionally packed and secured in the version that players receive. This whole process that the code goes through makes modifying it much harder than if we had raw C++ code at our disposal. That's exactly why modders and data miners got so hyped when, along with the definitive edition, the original uncompiled source code of the trilogy leaked, or at least part of it. Well, this team we're talking about here managed to fully reverse engineer GTA 3 and Vice City, which allowed them to adapt these games to modern hardware. On top of that, they managed to port the games to other platforms like Linux or Nintendo Switch, as well as add debugging tools and other improvements or bug fixes. Take-Two didn't wait long and jumped in with the same scheme. They filed a DMCA request with GitHub, and the repository was taken down. This time, however, the creators didn't give up. They argued that they didn't include in their files any code that was distributed by Take-Two. They wrote the C++ code solely based on assets belonging to Take-Two. Let's also add the fact that, like with other mods, users were required to own their own copy of the game. This wasn't the shameless redistribution of the same product for free. That was enough to appeal the DMCA claim, and the DMCA procedure on GitHub works like this. If, after an appeal, there's no response for a certain amount of time from the party that filed the claim, the files are restored. And that's exactly what happened with the Re3 and ReVC repositories. At first, it seemed like Take-Two had let it go, but, well, seemed is the key word. Things got really serious soon after, because Take-Two filed a full-blown lawsuit against the modding group, accusing them of violating copyright. The lawsuit was prepared with extreme diligence. It outright mocked the fact that the creators appealed the DMCA using the argument that their files were made only based on Take-Two's assets, completely ignoring the fact that they produced practically the same effect as Take-Two's own files, just with minor modifications that in no way made this legal redistribution. Additionally, the creators were accused of perjury because in other places they openly bragged that their mod doesn't change the gameplay experience, but only improves it, directly contradicting what they wrote in the DMCA appeal, where they claimed that the code isn't the same. The lawsuit pointed all of this out and provided exact statements and quotes. It was also emphasized that the code created by the team would make it easier for other modders to create further unauthorized modifications of Take-Two's intellectual property. Additionally, Take-Two claimed that the repository files contained unmodified assets belonging to them, such as text or character dialogue. The publisher also accused the modders of knowingly and deliberately violating copyright and redistributing their product. One sentence from the modder statement was quoted, clearly showing that creating an open-source GTA was their goal and the dream of many. And that wasn't the end of it. The lawyer who prepared the lawsuit did a textbook perfect job. They also included statements from the modders where they openly said that they were afraid Take-Two would take down their mod, so they tried not to draw too much attention to it for as long as possible. This was, of course, interpreted in this context as a public admission of knowingly violating copyright law and deliberately concealing the violation itself. On top of that, the whole thing was backed up with Discord quotes. So yeah, Take-Two went all in. There was also a demand for statutory damages of $150,000 for each copyrighted work infringed, as well as reimbursement of legal expenses. As a result, GitHub once again disabled the repository. Only months later did information appear that the parties had reached an agreement in principle, and Take-Two ultimately withdrew the lawsuit. So Take-Two played this masterfully, because look, First of all, they came out looking like a wonderful company that ultimately withdrew the lawsuit. PR-wise, great. The truth is, they had no choice. What would they even gain financially? The money they'd get from damages would be like your average John finding $2 on the sidewalk. They probably wouldn't even notice it. Second, if they kept dragging those modders through the mud, they'd lose even more in the eyes of the gaming world. You know, abusing their position and resources to destroy the lives of poor modders. Third, they showed that next time there will be no leniency and they won't mess about. Nobody is allowed to violate their rights, or they'll meet an unpleasant fate. So they definitely reduced the number of people willing to make mods that are unfavorable to them. And sure, on one hand, we agree with their policy when we buy their games. The disclaimers are there, so we should follow them. But on the other hand, not the legal one, but the real world one, they're basically spitting on the people who expand their fandom. It's like a YouTuber, a footballer, a basketball player, etc. All those people would be nothing without those who watch YouTube, football, or basketball. Same thing here. Rockstar and Take-Two would be nothing without the players who buy their games. Making things difficult for them, creating problems, and showing who's in charge is, unfortunately, pathetic and inhumane behavior. It looks like pure self-interest and a complete lack of care for the community that earns them all those billions. Rockstar also had a small moment of clarity in recent years. Still, this is another situation where they were more or less forced to act, and on top of that, it concerned improving online, so a reaction was even more unavoidable. To the point, in 2021, a user by the nickname Toast decided to investigate why GTA Online loads so mercilessly slow, around 6 minutes, while story mode loads in just over a minute, and why half the world has the same problem. After a truly impressive investigation, Toast discovered that the game was completely unnecessarily checking one of the JSON files in a disgustingly inefficient way. They posted their findings, claiming that their proposed solution should reduce online loading times by about 70%. This reached the developers' ears. Rockstar contacted Toast, thanked them, immediately released an update implementing the fix, and paid Toast $10,000. If Rockstar so casually tossed Toast 10 grand after the fix hit the internet, then I'm honestly very curious how much he could have negotiated if he had come to them with a concrete offer and said he had a fix that solved the long loading issue. Something tells me that adding one more zero to that payment wouldn't have been all that difficult. Another serious situation came in 2022 when Take-Two set its sight on the VR mods by Luke Ross. As for the procedure, the standard song and dance appeared, a DMCA from Take-Two sent to the Patreon platform, demanding the removal of any content in any way connected to GTA, Mafia, or Red Dead Redemption. The author was very surprised by this because supposedly he wasn't basing his work on any Take-Two assets, and his mods also required a legally purchased copy of the game. In any case, the author didn't really argue much. He probably knew the chances of success here were rather slim. Most likely, even if he had won the case, he would have lost on the fact that he was trying to sell people a mod titled something like something for GTA, which obviously uses another brand to promote his own product. The next modification deemed unacceptable by Take-Two was Sentient Streets. Generally speaking, a very modern concept because the mod implemented 30 AI models into the game, allowing the player to talk to random NPCs. And not like, for example, in San Andreas, where you can say some stuff to pedestrians and everything is based on pre-recorded dialogue.
I can't even fade your funk, chomp.
Hey man, that sure is interesting. I go tell somebody else.
Here, you could speak into a microphone, and the pedestrian would respond with a uniquely generated reply referring directly to what you said. Overall, a great concept, and on top of that, it was enriched with a short story mode where you could play as a police officer, make decisions, and so on, also via this AI. And yes, I'm probably starting to sound like a stuck record, but the author received a DMCA request to take the mod down. On top of that, the mod's demonstration video was taken down by Take-Two, as well as the installation guide. And now it gets funny. At the beginning of the episode, we talked about how the team responsible for creating FiveM was ruthlessly banned by Rockstar. Well, over all that time since 2015, it just so happened that FiveM became a serious thing. A massive community formed around it, one that earned Rockstar a hell of a lot of money. Rockstar's experts sniffed out an opportunity. They changed their minds and decided to bring that team, CFX.RE, into their ranks to provide them with support and resources so they could continue developing their platform. Look at that, how life works. Once, FiveM was classified by them as software facilitating piracy, and 8 years later, they suddenly bring it into the fold and invest in its development. What can I say? This was predictable. The role-play community got huge, so fighting such a well-oiled machine would have been pure stupidity. Even a monkey would know that this is a banana mine. I mean, a gold mine. 2025 was a year when things sadly got depressing on the modding scene more than once. Some of you probably remember GTA Vice City NextGen. That is, GTA Vice City remade on the GTA 4 engine with the full storyline available. Sure, it was full of bugs, but overall it was a really solid little mod. I personally couldn't quite get used to the GTA 4 engine in Vice City, but that's just me. Others had a great time. A ton of work for the modders. Every single mission had to be coded from scratch. Many players even call this mod the legitimate remaster. Oh, Take-Two was fast here. Already in the first week, they took down the creator's YouTube channel, Telegram, the mod's trailer, and soon after, the creators also received a complaint from the Entertainment Software Association, of which Take-Two is a member, stating that the creators had violated copyright and demanding that the mod be removed from the internet. Once again, the author didn't try to wrestle a horse and went along with the corporation's terms. This mod straight up shook the entire GTA community. It was loud. The mod ported Liberty City from GTA 4 to GTA 5 in a genuinely high quality way, not just copy-paste. The creators actually programmed the subway system, added proper ambiance on certain locations. For example, in the prison we had inmates and guards. The infamous cursed swing set was also added in exactly the same glitched way. The heart in the statue was there and beating. Radio stations from GTA 4 were added. Cars from 4 were remastered to GTA 5 standards and added to the game. Honestly, the list goes on. The mod was just solid, and the creators admitted the project took 7 years of work. Anyway, the mod dropped, and then it vanished. Almost instantly, Take-Two reacted practically right away. We weren't given many details. The author simply said that after a conversation with Rockstar, he decided to shut the project down. And now, the last case, one where I think there's actually not much to argue about. We all know about the GTA 4 leaks. We learned a ton of information from them. There were even people who built an entire speculative map of GTA 6 based on those leaks, screenshots, and trailers. And then there was one modder who, using GTA 5 assets, decided to actually start building that map inside GTA 5, you know, based on what was already known. Yeah, here the guy crossed the line. You could see that I'm generally on the modder side. You know, I sometimes rant like I'm possessed, and it's obvious Johnny Silverhand has a big influence on me. But this time, this really did go too far. The author himself even admitted that if he were in Take-Two's place, he would have taken that mod down too. Now a contrast, because it's not like all companies behave like Rockstar and Take-Two, so let's move on to the CD Projekt Red. Does this stem from my gigantic affection for the Reds and me being uncritical toward them? Of course it does, damn right. But at the same time, I think it's not coming from nowhere. There's real evidence for my stance. Let's start with how they reacted to the catastrophic launch of Cyberpunk, a game released in a technically awful state. Yep, it was a technical mess. But no clever exec like Zelnick popping up spouting nonsense claiming the game is amazing. No, there was admission of fault. Refunds were offered to players. Then the studio rolled up their sleeves and worked hard on fixing the game. In a little over a year, they released tons of patches and hotfixes, ultimately bringing the game to a decent state. On top of that, in 2023, DLC for Cyberpunk dropped. How did they treat mods? Let's cite 2 examples. They released RedMod, an official modding tool for Cyberpunk, which dramatically simplifies and encourages creating or installing mods. The studio stated publicly that it values player creativity and wants to support them in extending the game's possibilities. Additionally, CD Projekt hired a team previously responsible for modding tools for The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk 2077 to handle mod-related matters and continuously improve the modding tools. Meanwhile, Rockstar Take-Two? When they released the absolute disaster that was the definitive trilogy, what did the creators do? Promised some half-hearted fixes, patched a few bugs, the boss man claimed it's great, and that he's not sure what players are complaining about, and 4 years later, we still have an unplayable remaster, full of weird glitches, cartoon characters, and flying lampposts. What do we take from all this? Honestly, better not say. It's a horrible example of what happens when someone has a monopoly. I get the impression that they can't even treat their own people well, looking at the case of Leslie Benzies, the heart of Rockstar. That alone is a good topic for a full video. Apparently, when Leslie Benzies tried to return from vacation, his access card was deactivated, so he couldn't enter Rockstar North's office. When the security guard let him in, he was then asked to leave the building by a Rockstar manager. So maybe that's a good summary. If this is how they treat their own people, how can modders, players, or outsiders expect better treatment? Benzies, by the way, sued Take-Two for $150 million some time ago. They settled, but the terms were not disclosed. I'll tell you, I'm really curious what exactly happened there. Let me know what you think about the whole situation. Huge thanks for watching until the end, and a massive thank you to the patrons for the financial support. Take care and see you soon.